Offering personalized wealth management advice and banking and capital markets expertise, all with a commitment to putting clients' financial well-being first. Learn more at RaymondJames.com. You're listening to All Things Considered. I'm Jamie Floyd. Women and men spent much of last weekend digesting what the New York Times called a breaking news story about Donald Trump's private behavior with women, delivered first online and then on the front page of the Sunday edition. The banner headline: Crossing the Line, Trump's Private Conduct with Women. This story and his behavior will no doubt be a leading topic tonight when he's interviewed by Fox News lead female anchor Megyn Kelly, with whom he has had a fraught history. All of this got me thinking, how are women readers, viewers, and listeners responding to our coverage of Donald Trump? Joining me now in what I hope will be a regular conversation with women with New York City connections in the run-up to the November election, Lisa Bloom, legal analyst for Avvo.com and trial attorney for the Bloom firm. Lisa is also an author of several books, including Swagger, 10 Urgent Rules for Raising Boys in an Era of Failing Schools, Mass Joblessness, and Thug Culture. She joins us now via Skype from Tel Aviv, where she is traveling for a conference. Lisa, welcome back to WNYC.
Thank you, Jamie. Great to be here.
Well, first and foremost, all the news flashes and banner headlines about Donald Trump and the way he behaves with women. But was this really breaking news?
Well, I think it should be breaking news. I think we should take the treatment of women a lot more seriously than we do as a culture. I think if we took it seriously, Donald Trump would not be the presumptive nominee of a major American party.
But were we surprised to hear that Donald Trump behaves this way privately or even sometimes publicly with women?
Well, the fact that we're not surprised, it just shows that we all know that this is the way that he behaves. We saw how he has treated Megyn Kelly. We've seen the disgusting references that he's made to women, calling them fat pigs and dogs. Women to Donald Trump appear to exist only to look pretty and keep their mouths shut. And any woman who chooses to use her brain to challenge him with his own words, which is what Megyn Kelly did, gets insulted and attacked. I mean, this is just appalling behavior in 2016.
Trump and his supporters are suggesting, not surprisingly, that this is just a hit piece by the political and media establishment. And to be fair, isn't it true that the media, and of course I'm part of it, probably does feel some responsibility for its role in the evolution of the Trump candidacy?
The media has been so soft on Donald Trump. Frankly, the media enjoys his outrageous behavior. As you say, I'm here in Tel Aviv, Israel. I'm halfway across the world from you for an international women's conference. And even so, when I turn on the international news networks, it's Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, and the outrageous thing that he did today. We do not value women in America. And if you need evidence of that, Donald Trump is Exhibit A.
Let me ask you another question related but specific to your travels, because you've been traveling for about 4 weeks. You've been to the United Arab Emirates, Oman, and all over Israel. What are people saying about our election cycle, not just about this issue, but generally in other parts of the world?
It's amazing, Jamie, because these are very different places. The Arab Gulf states, which are conservative Muslim countries, and then Israel, which is a secular Jewish state. And there's a lot of difference of opinion on a lot of topics. But the one thing that I have found that everyone has in common is they are appalled that Donald Trump has made it this far in our election. They really are looking for answers. They're looking for an explanation. And, I can't really give them an explanation.
Lisa Bloom is a civil rights attorney. She is also the author of several books, including Think, Straight Talk for Women to Stay Smart in a Dumbed Down World. Thanks, Lisa, so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jamie. Have a great day.
Diplomats are making another concerted push for peace in Syria. Secretary of State John Kerry says they want to turn a shaky truce into a full-fledged ceasefire, but they could not even agree on a date to resume peace talks. The U.S. has found itself with little leverage. NPR's Michelle Kellerman reports.
Secretary Kerry says no one can be satisfied with the situation in Syria today. Entire communities remain under siege, and a ceasefire that had been providing some relief has been violated repeatedly. But as things get more dire, he bristles at the idea that the U.S. has no leverage as long as Russia and Iran prop up Syrian President Bashar al-Assad.
There is leverage in the fact that this war will not end for him or for his people without a political settlement. Everybody understands that. That is why the International Syria Support Group came together in the first place.
Kerry was speaking in Vienna today after the latest meeting of that Syria Support Group, which he co-chairs with his Russian counterpart.
Russia has made it very clear to us, at least, that President Assad has made a series of commitments to them. And we have yet to see President Assad live up to commitment number one, which is negotiate in good faith on the transition.
That is a transition away from Assad. Russia's foreign minister Sergei Lavrov says the priority should be on fighting terrorism, not toppling Assad, and he denies that Assad has been ignoring Russian advice.
Не поддерживаем нас. Мы поддерживаем борьбу с терроризмом.
We're not supporting Assad, we're supporting the fight against terrorism, Lavrov says, adding that Russia doesn't see any more effective force on the ground other than the Syrian army. That's a case Russia has been making for years, even though Assad's forces have only sporadically taken on ISIS. They've been focused mainly on fighting rebels and have continued to carry out mass atrocities against civilians. A former U.S. ambassador to Syria, Robert Ford, says the U.S. should be drawing some lessons from this.
Russia either cannot or will not deliver major Syrian concessions, even on something as simple as humanitarian aid access.
Diplomats in Vienna did agree on a plan to airdrop food when aid groups can't get to besieged communities by land. Ford told a Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearing that there needs to be consequences for anyone who blocks aid or violates the ceasefire. But neither he nor the other experts at that hearing today sounded upbeat about the prospects for diplomacy as long as Russia and Iran help Assad on the battlefield. Chairman Bob Corker, a Republican from Tennessee, summed up the mood this way.
This is going to be settled in the manner that Russia and Iran decide it's going to be settled. And that pendulum swung when Russia stepped into the vacuum that we allowed to exist for so long.
And the ranking Democrat on the committee, Maryland Senator Ben Cardin, says the U.S. shouldn't have gotten its hopes up when Russia announced earlier this year that it would be pulling troops out of Syria.
We all remember that. We thought, hey, well, looks like that President Putin might be exerting his leverage over Assad to get a negotiated settlement. And yet, here we are again. Putin's supposed pressure has receded, and Russia's jets have resumed their bombing in violation of the very ceasefire that Mr. Putin helped broker.
Cardin says a peace agreement that leads to an internationally negotiated transitional government seems as far away as ever. The UN is still trying to get the warring sides to the negotiating table. Michelle Kellerman, NPR News, Washington.
And you're listening to All Things Considered on WNYC. Chinese companies are acquiring all sorts of businesses in the United States.
We've seen billions of dollars invested in entertainment, automotive parts, semiconductors.
Some 90,000 Americans are now directly employed by Chinese organizations in the U.S. We'll take a closer look at that fact and its implications after news headlines. Tonight we do have a chance of rain, otherwise cloudy with a low around 52 degrees. Currently it's 58 degrees, and it's mostly cloudy in Central Park at 7:30. I'm Anna Sale, host of Death, Sex, and Money. The one show I can't live without is Fresh Air with Terry Gross. Whether her conversations are about TV and film, politics, or the latest scientific discovery, Terry's questions reveal something that leave me changed. What's the one show you couldn't do without? The one thing WNYC couldn't do without is you. Become a member today. Go to WNYC.org and click on Donate. And thanks.
WNYC support comes from New York Presbyterian Hospital, working to bring advanced and compassionate care to the New York City community. More information available at nyp.org/amazingthings. New York Presbyterian, amazing things are happening here. WNYC is a media partner of the Met, hosting Teens Take the Met, Friday, May 20th from 5 to 8 p.m. Dancing, art making, performances, and more for all teens 13 and older with a school ID. Details at metmuseum.org.
WNYC is the station that brings NPR News to New York City.
Live from NPR News in Culver City, California, I'm Dwayne Brown. After 2015 went down as the worst year on record for fires, the nation's top agriculture and forest officials met today to discuss prospects for this year. As Phil Latzman reports from member station KJZZ, fire season is already off to a troubling start.
Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack met with regional fire officials to discuss plans and preparations for what they term as a worrisome wildfire season to come. Their briefing comes after a record 15,800 square miles burned nationwide last year, costing 7 Forest Service firefighters their lives. Ominously, so far in 2016, 5 times more acres have already burned than at this time last year. Jessica Gardetto of the National Interagency Fire Center says conditions are ripe for history to repeat itself.
We're hoping that it doesn't happen again this year, but there is the potential because there are a lot of areas that are still experiencing droughts, such as California.
Global warming is seen as an increasing factor, with 16 of the most historically significant wildfires occurring over the past decade. For NPR News, I'm Phil Latzman in Phoenix.
California prosecutors say a Texas company faces 4 felony counts and dozens of misdemeanors after a pipeline break last year that spilled about 140,000 gallons of oil on the Santa Barbara coast and into the ocean. California Attorney General Kamala Harris.
This case should serve as a stark reminder that any company that is operating in our state and transporting crude oil and doing it in a way that is irresponsible and in violation of the law will be held accountable.
Plains All-American Pipeline faces up to $2.8 million in fines if convicted. The company says the spill was an accident and the charges are inappropriate. A Grammy-winning Tejano star has died in South Texas. Emilio Navarra was 53. Police say preliminary results show a possible heart attack. This is NPR.
This is WNYC in New York. I'm Lance Lucky. A federal appeals court has delayed the release of names of those who were involved in the Bridgegate conspiracy. The list was to have been released at noon today. One of the people on that list had asked the court to protect his name from being associated with the scandal. Today's stay issued by the Third Circuit Court of Appeals will keep the list sealed until it can hear oral arguments June 6th. An audit of the MTA's Access-a-Ride program for disabled commuters found thousands of passengers were left stranded and alleges that service providers manipulated performance data. City Comptroller Scott Stringer says the service for disabled riders also failed to ensure vehicles had GPS technology.
I think we have to have a real management reform process to bring Access-a-Ride into the 21st century.
Stringer says mismanagement of the program may have cost taxpayers $130,000. The MTA has not responded to a request for comment. Authorities say they've indicted 72 people accused of being involved in a major drug ring operating between New York City and central New York. Attorney General Eric Schneiderman with state and local police officials announced today many of the suspects were arrested in raids this week in the Syracuse area. He says the raids targeted 2 separate heroin and cocaine distribution rings. One was an upstate downstate operation and another sold cocaine in suburban Syracuse and neighboring Oswego County. This summer, Prospect Park is going retro to remove weeds. They're not hiring an urban gardener to swing a scythe. They're using goats. WNYC's Stephen Nesson reports the goats are insatiable.
With 4 stomachs each, these goats from Rhinebeck will happily devour the poison ivy and goutweed that's proliferated in this northeast corner of the park. The section was badly damaged during Sandy, allowing invasive species to thrive. On a morning stroll, Eleanor Forster stumbled on the goats with her 3-year-old daughter.
Having the animals here in a kind of natural environment without being in the zoo, it's lovely.
But no touching. The goats are behind a fence. For WNYC, I'm Stephen Nesson.
At Citi Field, it's guaranteed to be a pitcher's duel between the Mets' Noah Syndergaard and the Washington Nationals' Max Scherzer. They're underway and scoreless. Cloudy and 58 degrees. Maybe a sprinkle this evening, but not much to speak of into the early morning hours tomorrow. Otherwise partly sunny after an overnight low of 52. It'll be a high of 67 tomorrow. 58 and cloudy now. WNYC at 7:35.
Support for NPR comes from WNYC members and from Viking River Cruises. Sailing through the heart of cities in Europe, Russia, and Asia, Viking River Cruises, exploring the world in comfort. Learn more at vrc.com. And Optum, a health services and innovation company. Optum works to power modern healthcare by connecting every part of it, from doctors and hospitals to pharmacies, health plans, and employers. Learn more at optum.com.
From NPR News, this is All Things Considered. I'm Ari Shapiro.
And I'm Audie Cornish. News of a big shopping spree now. Chinese companies are set to break records for investment deals in the U.S. They've been snapping up everything from entertainment companies to methanol plants. Along the way, they've created tens of thousands of jobs for Americans. NPR's Jackie Northam reports.
24 hours a day, every day, plastic drinking straws shoot from this hopper into individual wrappers. That's a lot of straws.
It would be a few 100 million. We have already made enough straws to go around the world 1.5 times.
That's Gilbert Lee. He runs Fuling Plastic here in Allentown, Pennsylvania. It's one of China's largest manufacturers of plastic cutlery, cups, and yes, straws. Its biggest customers are fast food chains in the U.S.
Those two machines make Burger King straws. This is Wendy's. Wendy's straws, they have one wrap stripe.
Fuling Plastic has been supplying American customers for about 8 years, manufacturing the products in China and shipping them to the U.S. Then a year ago, Fuling opened an operation in Allentown, transforming an empty 80,000 square foot warehouse into a factory for its plastic straws. Lee, a U.S. citizen born in Hong Kong, says it was a strategic business decision to save shipping time and money.
First of all, a lot of our customers, they really like the fact that our products are made in the U.S. And then we will be able to cut over a month of delivery time because it has to ship by ocean freight.
Fuling Plastic employs 43 people, all but a few are locals. A new factory is important in a place like Allentown. For decades, it was an area dominated by heavy manufacturing. In the 90s, large corporations moved elsewhere and jobs dried up. Don Cunningham, the president of the Lehigh Valley Economic Development Corporation, says his group lobbied hard to get Fuling Plastic into the area in the hopes that other Chinese companies will follow.